the U.S. decoupling supply chains from China, a golden opportunity that arrived late. Episode 15. Fostering Export-Driven Industries. North Korea's Transition to Capitalism. Creating the miracle on the Taedong River. North Korea's Workers' Party can implement a market economy. Due to its small domestic market, North Korea has no choice but to foster export-oriented industries to achieve economic growth. Unfortunately, many believe that the environmental conditions for latecomer nations to enter the ranks of developed countries through manufacturing have already disappeared. The era of globalization from 1970 to 2010, during which the United States promoted globalization and free markets as standards to generate profits through the free movement of capital and technology and the establishment of global supply chains, has ended, as China, which grew through the benefits of free trade, began challenging U.S. hegemony and targeting developed markets with superior cost-effectiveness. Developed nations started responding by forming economic blocs. During the golden time for economic growth in developing countries known as the era of free trade, South Korea, Taiwan, and Singapore were the first to succeed in rapid growth and join the ranks of developed nations. China also pushed forward with a market economy through full-scale reform and opening starting in the 1980s, growing into an economic powerhouse second only to the United States. Although late, Vietnam also succeeded in long-term rapid growth by declaring a reform policy called Doi Moi in 1986 and transitioning to a market economy. Although North Korea unfortunately missed this golden opportunity, another excellent chance has emerged. As the U.S. and Europe begin establishing supply chains to move away from China, North Korea can cooperate with South Korea, the U.S., and Japan to supply North Korean products to the U.S. and European markets. Vietnam and India have limitations in absorbing the demand for supply chains moving away from China. Neither country possesses rare earth elements or strategic minerals, nor does it hold the status of a logistics hub bordering South Korea, Japan, and China. North Korea possesses three unrivaled advantages. First, it perfectly matches the demand for minerals moving away from China with the world's largest reserves of rare earth elements, graphite, and magnesite. Second, due to its geopolitical location bordering South Korea, China, and Russia, it is more suitable as a Northeast Asian supply chain hub than any other alternative. Third, it has a large, disciplined workforce well-educated in science and engineering, making it suitable for deployment in technology-intensive manufacturing. Of course, labor costs are also low. When North Korea adopts a market economy and engages in a division of labor with neighboring countries, its structural position becomes the final assembly and processing hub of the Northeast Asian production network. Division of labor is possible through the interplay of Chinese capital, equipment, and intermediate goods, South Korean technology, quality, and brands, Japanese technology, materials, and precision machinery, Russian energy and resources, and North Korean labor, location, some resources, and its role as a production base. Promising industries in North Korea satisfy four conditions: labor-intensive or intermediate technology, the need for large-scale land and energy export potential, and the ability to connect supply chains with South Korea and China. The core competitiveness of North Korean industry lies not merely in low wages, but in connectivity with South Korea, supply chains with China, resources from Russia, and its geopolitical location. Therefore, North Korea's export-oriented industries must be designed not as factories for the world's lowest wages, but as core assembly and processing hubs of the Northeast Asian production network to succeed. Let us examine the success conditions and key risks of fostering export-led industries during North Korea's transition to a market economy. The most critical prerequisites are the lifting of international sanctions and the establishment of basic legal frameworks. Without minimal market economy infrastructure such as property rights protection, foreign exchange liberalization, intellectual property rights, and labor laws, no foreign capital will enter the country. North Korea must publicly announce its transition to a market economy and begin overhauling its legal system, while simultaneously establishing diplomatic relations with the United States on the condition of abandoning nuclear weapons, thereby lifting sanctions and securing aid. Then, a realistic path forward is to start with special economic zones and expand experimentally, just as China did in 1978. The second factor is energy infrastructure. Currently, the instability of North Korea's power supply is a fundamental bottleneck for all manufacturing industries. The Kasan-Rajin natural gas pipeline from Russia or a connection to the South Korean power grid must be pursued in parallel. The third factor is preventing excessive monopolies by the chaebols. In both South Korea and China, the initial concentration of power in chaebols and state-owned enterprises led to the suppression of innovation and corruption in the long run. Independent fair trade agencies and freedom of the press must be designed as checks and balances within the system. Next time, I will introduce promising export-oriented industries for North Korea as it transitions to a market economy. Thank you.